Today we will be exploring the dynamic world of research and development in the power systems industry. Historically, power systems industry has not been associated with major innovation and improvements at least over the last 50 years or so. So what do you need in order to get started as R&D engineer in power systems? Typically, it would require a PhD in electrical engineering, which means that you have to complete your undergraduate engineering coursework, then a graduate degree, and then pursue your PhD. But innovation, creativity, and improvement can happen at different aspects and does not require necessarily for you to get a degree. You can find opportunities for improvement in your day-to-day workflow. You can identify certain limitations, certain roadblocks, and certain gaps and actively work towards solving those problems. I don't think it's a practical example to give, but as you probably know, Elon Musk does not have a PhD in rocket science. But despite that, him and his team have achieved things that nobody was dreaming of just a few years ago. When it comes to research and development, one of the key things that we must understand is that for us to contribute in any innovative or a creative manner, we first have to have specialized knowledge. You cannot identify a problem, let alone solve it, until and unless you fully understand it. Within the context of power systems industry, whether you're working on energy storage mechanisms, improving the efficiencies of batteries, reducing the losses on transmission lines, distribution line, you have to accumulate a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, a lot of expertise before you get to a stage where the answers to your questions don't exist. It is only when you reach the pinnacle of that base of knowledge that you'll be able to creatively and innovatively contribute to that particular field. Sometimes you can short circuit the system by coming up with a very different way of doing things. An example is that of Henry Ford. At the turn of 20th century, very few people could afford automotives. Henry Ford had this grand idea of making cars so affordable that anyone who was working for the Ford Motor Company could also have his or her own car. And he basically revolutionized the entire industry by coming up with the assembly line process. In the hindsight, it makes perfect sense that this was the right way of doing things, but no one was doing it the way that Henry Ford wanted to do it. And he's famously quoted as saying that if I had asked the customer about what they wanted, they would have told me that they wanted a faster horse. Before he came up with his assembly line process, essentially all the parts and the components of a car would be brought to a common area where multiple tradespeople would work on the car at the same time. And as you can imagine, this would create a lot of inefficiencies. There would be a lot of waiting time being wasted until somebody installs a door, then the next person is gonna go in and they would be squeezing for space, the tools will get mixed up, and Henry Ford identified these inefficiencies. The concept of assembly line is now adopted across so many different industries. So in many ways, Henry Ford simply asked a question, identified a problem which maybe nobody else was looking at from the right angle. I'm not saying that by adopting this perspective, all of us are going to unlock opportunities like Henry Ford did, but these type of opportunities do exist. And there are tons and tons of examples like these. So if you want to work as an R&D engineer, you don't necessarily need a title of research and development electrical engineer. You just have to have an open mind, develop specialized skill set, and develop a habit of continuously innovating and creating new ways of doing things, new perspectives, and contributing to the solution. When it becomes second nature to you, chances are that you're going to be recognized as a problem solver amongst your colleagues within the company, and that can open tons of opportunities for you. Taking a more formal route, that is pursuing PhD, working under a supervisor who is trying to answer some very specific questions, has the necessary tools, grants, funding, ecosystem, collaboration, industry connections will obviously be helpful. But even in our day-to-day roles as electrical engineers, I encourage you to think creatively and approach the questions in an innovative manner. And who knows, our out-of-box thinking may result in unforeseeable opportunities. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please share them in the comment section of this video. And if you have any recommendations for the next video, please let me know. You can find tons of success stories of my FE Electrical and PE Power students over here. And if you want to learn more about preparation of FE Electrical and Computer exam and the PE Power exam, then check out these playlists over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next video.